Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. Okay, so, feeling better. I have a cup of coffee. It's the last dregs of it though. It's not great. Okay, so let's see, what do we have to talk about? So, yesterday, in future time, after you are actually watching this video, I will have posted the discussion for this month's spell read, The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivie Blake. I really enjoyed this book, actually much more than I thought I was going to. I mean, I thought it was going to be kind of light and fun, which it was, but there was a lot here, a lot of like really beautiful stuff in here, and it was really cool, the focus on science and art. And sorry, I'm petting my dog. He is out of sight, but he needs a lot of attention apparently right now. I'm so distracted. Okay, this bodes well for this video. He's fine. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the kind of the many themes that it tackled of not just sexuality, but also, you know, what it means to be an artist or what it means to be a scientist, and how these things are open, you know, they're like open to everyone, was just really, really good. And like I said, a lot of historical romance is low-key very feminist, and this was not even low-key about it, but it was good. I didn't feel like it was preachy at all. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you did too. And moving into March, I think I know what's coming next, but I'm not going to tell you yet. Why ruin the suspense? I'll tell you next week. Starting off with romance. Hi, Olivie. I'm a freshman in college looking to get into the dating scene. Only problem is I can't meet a boy I like. Okay, you're a freshman in college. You have just started your second semester. Okay. This was never really a problem in high school, and I did date a little, but here at my private liberal arts college, I just feel like every guy is so entitled. That's a pretty good description of a lot of men. Privileged to the extent that I can't really vibe with them. Should I be willing to overlook that and take it as a norm in my college? I don't know. I really want to go out with someone. Maybe this is the post-Valentine's Day and me talking. But the whole class thing, which I never really thought about before I came here, is mildly off-putting, even though some of the guys are genuinely nice or good people. So, you know, there's always nice guys and terrible ones to be found in any given situation. I will say, as I often say whenever I get asks from he's rolled onto his stomach now. Whenever I get asks from college freshmen, is that it takes a little bit to like normalize. I think generally people become a little bit more comfortable and start to reach outside of their comfort zone, which is initially quite small, during the second semester. So, I mean, my first piece of advice would be the same whether you were looking to date or not, which is now is the time to like try pursuing your interests. I think the first semester is about settling in, and then the second semester is about like, you know, going to more than just your classes, trying to find clubs or groups or whatever with people who have the same interests that you do. If you even have a cursory interest, college is like, I won't say that I didn't take advantage of college. I definitely did. Oh, you can see my dog's ear. There he is. So, yeah. So I'm not going to say I didn't take advantage of it. I think that definitely socially I did. However, I was not really considering that I might ever have a career as a writer. So even though I might have been interested in literature classes or whatever, I just didn't bother taking any of those, which I now like sorely regret. I also went to a school that had like an amazing film program, and even though there were like screenwriting classes I could have taken, it doesn't matter, but there's a lot of classes I could have taken and that I was interested in, but that I didn't take because I was kind of busy trying to figure out what I thought was going to be my professional life. So I was like in a hurry to get my master's, in a hurry to go to law school. And the one thing I want to encourage you to do, well, just don't be in a hurry, one, which is not related to your dating life, but I think it's relevant because if you do kind of push your interests and get out of your normal comfort zone and try new things, you're more likely to meet people that you do vibe with. Because I think in any given community situation, whatever, there's going to be people that you don't get along with or who don't have the same values as you do, and people who do, and they can be hard to find. You know, and you don't have to limit yourself to the people you see every day, basically, is a thing. Hey, don't lick that. Not that I'm saying that you are limiting yourself or anything like that. Just now is the time to definitely try and pursue things that maybe don't feel cool but feel interesting. I think you know it's the right thing if your first instinct is like, it might be kind of embarrassing for me to do this alone. However, I'm the only person I know who would appreciate this. Whatever gives you that feeling, I think you should pursue it. And then that's how do people meet people, really? I mean, aside from dating apps, it's just a lot of friends and like people you run into when you run in the same circles. You never really know how you're going to make connections with people. So rather than thinking about lowering your standards, try to think about expanding your experience. Like if you are taking up this much space at your college, take up more space or go find the right space, which does mean putting yourself out there possibly in an uncomfortable way. It definitely could be uncomfortable. But I think the key is you get over the initial discomfort of doing something that's new and out there in order to kind of solve a more lasting discomfort of feeling like you don't belong in the groups that you're currently in. I think there's always a community to be found. So looking for people you can vibe with, which I just love, like just not even in a relationship way. Don't think of it as looking for someone to date. Even if you do have friends, which sounds like, you know, you're not here asking me how to make friends, but I think that you should look at this as a chance to make all kinds of connections, not just romantic. So go do something new, or find a new job, find a volunteer opportunity off campus, get yourself off campus. If you feel like you're in an environment where you're like hyper aware of things that you don't really love. I found this to be true when I was in law school. I went to a huge public high school and a huge undergraduate program, and even my graduate program was like, it was small, but it was still, we all had different tracks, so I had class with different people. And then all of a sudden, enter law school, and I see the same, 40 people or whatever every single day, and it seems like they know stuff about me that I don't even know how they know that, and a bunch of them come from money and have interest in making more money, which it wasn't what I was there to do. So I get feeling like you're the problem, like feeling like maybe you're not used to it and therefore you're out of place. But I also feel like that might just be a case of not having found the right corner of your college experience yet. I mean, you're still really new to this whole situation. You're still a college freshman and you're still a teenager and you're still figuring out not just, what you like, but who you are. And again, I know you're asking me about how to meet people to date, but I just think that that's the sort of thing that you can't really control. That will find you. You just have to find yourself in the right place at the right time, which is a process of exploring. Oh, this one's rough. Dear Olivie, so I recently became confronted with the fact that there are actual Trump supporters in my immigrant, normally very democratic family, and they're in it for, the tax breaks. And I have no idea how to impress upon them that this is stupid and they are complacent, and they're definitely coming over during my spring break and they're going to be talking politics at some point. What should I tell them? Okay, well, here's an important basic lesson. There are emotional arguments and there are logical arguments. And I think I've talked about this before. But one way to definitely not win an argument is to make logical arguments when other people are making emotional arguments, because they just get angry. This might just be a me thing, but people tend to think when they say something, crazy, and I say something back that I think is logical, they sometimes think that I am talking down to them or being condescending, which makes them really close off to what I'm trying to say. So there's a lot of wrong ways to go about this. In most cases, I would even say just don't say anything, because there's such a small chance that you'll win. But I guess don't think of it as winning. Try to think of it as planting seeds for them to think about later. I don't know if they're going to. I'm also assuming that these are older relatives, people who are older than you are, so they probably don't want to hear your take. Also, I don't know what culture you come from, but in my family, there's definitely a big, they're all immigrants as well, and on my mom's side. And there's definitely a big, like, respect your elders thing. So me picking a fight with any of them would be a huge waste of my time. So, like I said, there's a lot of wrong ways to go about this, and very few right ways, and even fewer, like, safe ways. Very few safe ways. Probably no right ways, actually. I'm just going to tell you going in, this is, like, a bad situation. I, too, my immigrant grandfather, I just recently learned is a Republican still. I didn't think that he still would be. It's a mystery. But I think one thing that we have to recognize, and this is something that I said on Tumblr also, is that the thing about this election and what we don't understand, we of our demographic who are young and, you know, creative and liberal and whatever, we are not that common a demographic. I mean, obviously you are someone who uses Tumblr, so you're probably inundated with people being like, Trump is stupid, and it seems like everybody agrees on that. But the truth is that a lot of the country is being exposed to a very different narrative. They're being exposed to the idea that, like there are a lot of people who considered Obama to be very elitist. Like, because he was intelligent and well-spoken, he was so distant from them, even though really he was probably more like them than Trump has ever been, because Trump comes from money. He was born into money. He had millions of dollars to lose, and he did. And the millions that he did make, that's because he started with a winning hand. That's not something that I necessarily think that you could convince people of. It's crazy that so many people have forgotten, but they really think that because Trump he's relatable and that he's close to them because I don't know, he's got, I will say he's got this like very weird ability. You know how he gives different politicians and whatever, like those like mean little nicknames, but they all have like an alliteration to them, or they all have some like pun involved, and they're memorable. And it's kind of insane how effectively he's planting that in people. There are lots of times, especially when I've been around Mr. Blake's in-laws, who, as I've said, are conservative, I hear them saying things that Trump has said, because it's almost like the name game, you know, where it's like when you say something and it sticks in your head because it's rhythmic or alliterative or whatever. Everything he says has that like weird quality that sticks in their heads, and then they just like reuse that language. So that one thing to just be aware of is that what your relatives are being exposed to is different from what you're being exposed to. So as much as you want to come in making very obvious arguments, they're hearing something very different. So to them, the facts are literally different. So, I mean, the reality is that they're in it for the tax breaks, but like what tax breaks? That's not for them. Those tax breaks are for the wealthy, which they aren't. I think I read this somewhere. I think it was like a tweet or something that's like basically every single person is closer to bankruptcy than they are to being a billionaire at any given time. So to behave like any of us could ever be billionaires is kind of ridiculous, and protecting the wealthy doesn't make any sense. They're not going to buy this, of course. Most immigrants come to the United States because they have the idea that anyone can make anything of themselves here. So you never want to close the door on that, even though the door is closed on that. I think what sometimes people don't understand is that they would get a lot more back from their taxes if someone more liberal was in office. So for example, any of the candidates that are promoting better healthcare, you could make the argument, if you wanted, that they would actually save more from having universally provided healthcare than they would from having a tax break. Because if you can just ask them how much their insurance plan is per month and add that up for a year. But the other thing is that people don't understand that because our insurance is privatized, everything costs way more than it should. Medicine, it's that expensive because they can make it that expensive. Insurance is that expensive because that's what capitalism has provided for us. And if we had a universal healthcare, it wouldn't have to cost as much as they think it costs. And also, it's not like there isn't a plan for this. I think the two main, I would say, liberal candidates have made it very clear that they would find the money for these plans by taxing the wealthy, of which Your family is not. I don't know how much this would work. It depends what their attitude is, but there are not a lot of people who understand how much $1 billion is. It's not $1 million. You could maybe make $1 million. You're not making $1 billion. They certainly are not going to be anywhere near the tax bracket that's actually going to be taxed for social services. I mean, there's lots of crazy numbers you could throw at them, like the fact that Jeff Bezos can like solve homelessness for an entire year and still be a billionaire. Like, you can give them facts and numbers and you can make this logical, but I almost guarantee that's not an angle they're coming from. It might not be worth it to argue with them. I do think it's worth it to say good things. I think it's worth it to keep it as positive as possible. So you might say, I'm voting for this candidate because I like these things. And if they push you on it, then you can defend your point of view. But don't attack theirs. Because the one thing that the Trump campaign has taught America how to do is how to punch down. And you don't want to be punched at by people who are Trump supporters. So it's probably better if you just can say, well, this is what I think, and this is what's important to me, and here's why, but don't argue with them. It's good to be informed about why you're making the choices you're making. Don't cast judgment on their choices, but hopefully you can make it appealing to them why you think that this is the right thing to do. And I always say that it's at least worth having these conversations, if only because you might give them something to think about. You maybe won't change their mind in the argument as it's actually happening, but you never know who's listening to you talk or who else, might like what you have to say, or whether maybe something happens and they think, oh wait, maybe this isn't what I wanted, or maybe this isn't exactly reflecting my values. And they'll remember what you said. I personally am voting for Elizabeth Warren. I have talked about this before. I just think she has a very strong mom energy, and I think that that's something that we really don't value enough. If there was a problem in your house, like a severe problem, everything was a mess, you needed someone to fix it, who do you think is going to do a better job of this, your mom or your dad? Obviously, I have more reasons than that. I agree with almost all of her policy decisions, which, are very similar to some other candidates, but I just like her. She vibes with me. I'm tired of men. And that's just me adding this in because, I'm going to be filling out my ballot this weekend, and I don't really see a reason not to tell you. So yeah, I've always really liked Elizabeth Warren. I really like how she's really thorough. I think it's so stupid that she's being attacked for being, assertive, because internalized misogyny, it gets us every time. But anyway, whoever you're voting for, try to stay positive. I don't think we want to attack Democratic candidates because I'm very hard-pressed to find that anyone would be worse than Trump. Even Bloomberg is obviously not great. He's not even that different from Trump, but these are tough times. This is exactly why I'm writing the Commoner's Guide sequel, which, by the way, is on track to start in March. But anyway, we want to stay as positive as possible. There's lots of reasons to attack. There's lots of reasons to attack, and there's lots of reasons to be defensive about what we believe. But I think that it's really important right now that we focus on the good that can come out of this election. I know that's coming from me. I'm not really an optimist by nature, but I'm just getting really tired of going onto Twitter and people seeing people attack candidates, and it's just this is exactly how we ended up with Trump. Politicians are by nature not perfect. The way that our system works, it's not perfect. But we at least need to put someone in office who respects the rule of law so that when we do vote on something, it actually happens and doesn't just get swept under the rug. Best of luck. Best of luck dealing with your family, because there are people you might not be able to change their minds. You could steal their ballots. Just kidding, don't do that. But, I think it's great that you want to have that discourse. I think that this is a new era of, we are the generation that, us and everyone that follows, we're the generations where politics is not off the table, because it can't be off the table. So, oh man, I don't know if that answer might have gone in circles. It's hard to talk about because I don't want to alienate anyone, which is part of what I feel like, which is part of the problem with current politics, is it can be really alienating. Even all of us who are in agreement that we no longer want Trump, it's still really easy to feel like there are candidates who don't see us. And that's the thing, is I don't think it's going to be a situation where it's like there's one person who's the savior, you know. I think we have to think of it as incremental changes. We have to find someone better than Trump. And then after that, we have to find someone better than them. And hopefully the more people who believe in the system and who still want to fight for it, or who can turn this into a better system, and as they come of age and come into power, and then we can vote for them. We're moving towards incremental change. The idea is that eventually we will have a government that represents all of us, and we have to make the choices that get us there. And right now, that choice is anyone but Trump. And I know there are flaws with all of the candidates. And it's not about finding the perfect one, just like it's not about finding the perfect argument to like diffuse the people who have been, who unfortunately are very vulnerable to Trump's tactics. I mean, it's amazing. It seems like it should be really obvious that he has no interest in their interests. He doesn't have any of their same values. He's clearly not, you know, I think with immigrant families, or at least mine, like they're very religious, and Trump clearly is not. He's, you know, a rich guy from New York City, which is exactly what Republicans typically hate. But for some reason, this guy was smart enough, I don't know about smart enough, but he was tactical enough to reframe his entire narrative. So don't underestimate that, and don't underestimate the power of what they're exposed to. Try to get them off Facebook. I worry about Facebook. Ugh, I don't like it. Okay, well, whew, that was a lot. But anyway, this has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next week.